guys, I'm Katie Room from Periapsis Press. David's just grabbing a few things, and very shortly we'll be joined by Matt Crotts to get started on talking about we'll be facilitating an interesting conversation, mostly between David and Matt, about AI art. They're on opposite sides.
Matt's changed his position, I think, somewhat, so I'm anxious to talk to him about.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Matt has had several of these conversations over like months, right? So he has heard a lot of the different positions. So I'm not surprised if his position has evolved at all. But David, as you guys know, is a computer software engineer and specifically in AI research. So he also has kind of a unique position within our group to talk about that. And then I thought that I would like to share with you guys some of my thoughts on some elements of the Comicsgate EVS / Eric July debate / the Trashcast streams that are going on, and in particular how our outlook interacts with kind of the things that are happening there, especially in the context of positive reviews and what that looks like. All right, I'm going to say hi to the chat who are rolling in. Hi, Timo Burnham and B.A. Turner, Michael Kane, DeCronk, Colin Lamping, and William Jeffrey Rankin.
Oh, nice. We got some people from the group chat here.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you guys so much for coming. I appreciate it. And there's Matt. Hello.
Hey. Howdy, guys.
How's it going?
Yeah, going well. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. I'm anxious to talk, and I was really excited when Katie said that she wanted to talk about the whole CG drama too, because I figured that you would be fun to talk to about this as well.
Oh gosh. I promise to try to make it entertaining.
Oh, I think it will. I think we have enough of a unique take. I mean, Katie and I are kind of outsiders.
Right.
And you're not sort of directly involved in the drama as far as I know, but you're kind of a drama appreciator.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there will be some interesting things to say about it.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll be able to mix it up.
First, we should probably address. Colin accuses you, says this is not a real picture.
Well, this is me putting on my selling face. I'm here to. I'm gonna pitch you something you didn't know you needed, but by the end of this, hopefully, you're buying something from me. That's what I'm doing.
Definitely. Feel free to shill.
Yeah,
anything
absolutely.
that you want.
I was talking about AI, but
okay.
Comic books too are cool.
Yeah. Katie and I don't have anything to sell right now. This is just something we're doing for fun, but don't let feel free to sell whatever you want. So where should we start? I think we should probably start with AI, because I don't know how much we're gonna have to. I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll see how much we have to say about that. But Matt, you reached out. You reached out to me the other week and said, "Hey, should we talk about AI?" So I was curious, kind of what specifically you wanted to talk about. I know that you've and what I've seen of your talk about AI, you're kind of, I think when we first started talking about it, you were very pro AI, and I would say now you've kind of shifted and you seem to be wanting to talk a lot about sort of a distinction between AI images as art versus something else. And you're kind of arguing that there's a role for AI imagery, but that we shouldn't call it art or something. That's kind of what I've gathered. of your position?
Yeah, well, thanks. I've been trying to. I think what you've summarized is very fair, and
Mhm.
and I hate that it's fair because I've been trying to do a better job, and I haven't figured it out yet, of getting us collectively out of the mire of debating whether or not AI images are art, just
Mhm.
because they've been branded art generators.
Mhm.
I feel like that got us stuck where the corporations were framing what the debate would be
Mhm.
right from the start, right when they went public with
Mhm.
these products. And I really don't think that's a great place. Like, we're trying to have really like a philosophical debate in a way, like all of us are, about like what are these things, what are they, how are they impacting our abilities to imagine things, like there's all kinds of downstream implications, and we've just kind of allowed the branding to funnel us down into this like art, is it or isn't it art binary. And it's so easy to say, oh, it's not art, and then think, well, that settles it. And it
Yeah.
doesn't, because it's still here and it's still impacting us,
Yeah.
and it's still reshaping industries, and it's shaping uh
Mhm.
policies, probably,
Mhm.
very soon, if not already. It's important,
Mhm.
and I don't think we only begin. I don't even think we started on the right foot by talking about whether or not it's art, So we're not even
Yeah.
having the level of conversation we should be having.
Something that you mentioned there was, I forget what word you used just now, but something about the influence, like how it influences us. I think is
Yeah.
important because for me, I think maybe I am less opposed to it in principle than I was
Oh,
a
interesting.
while back,
Hmm.
but I think I remain opposed to using it personally for the reason for the reason that I want to, like, I want to curate and be intentional about curating what my influences are. Um,
Absolutely.
and I don't want to, like, something that I think I've tweeted about is, like, I don't want to delegate my thinking or like my aggregating influences to a machine. So, and I
Wow.
feel like
That's a good
AI
way to
kind of,
say it.
it has the potential to do that, right? You see people saying like, "Oh, well, I wouldn't use AI images, but I might use them to get ideas for compositions or whatever." I'm like, "Duh, that's almost worse," right?
Hmm.
Uh, you're saying, "Okay, well, I'm not gonna actually use the output, but I'm gonna use it to influence my thinking," right? And that seems almost worse somehow. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a
We've completely normalized, like, decades now at this point ago, uh, like, just kind of offshoring our memory banks, you know?
mhm,
Like, we just Google things instead of remembering them,
mhm,
and our attention spans have been reduced as a result. You know,
mhm,
and we've already had our like pleasure in pain centers uh, uh, affected and rewired demonstrably by social media, and just what the internet has generally for us and what it tempts us with.
mhm.
And now we have the ability to, um well, the sticker on the package says that we can export our imagination and offload
Yeah.
that off to a computer to handle for us.
Mhm,
And I'm not sure if it can do that, but if we believe it can,
mhm.
this kind of gets to that Marshall McLuhan stuff that people get annoyed at me for, um, tapping on about. But like,
Mhm.
I think, these terms kind of start to shift, just like when we think about memory and how the internet's affected our ability to think through whether or not something is even worth memorizing. Very few things are, if you can if the internet memorizes it for you. So like, what would imagination even be? What would visual inspiration look like if I can just kind of let the medium of these AI generators, image generators, kind of truncate, compress, reduce, decimate down, like what it can reasonably handle, and then give me what it believes, just because that's how the algorithm can handle things, what it believes the spectrum of imagination is going to be, and then my world becomes just only as big as the algorithm can handle, which frankly my memory is only as big as the internet can handle, right? And that I'm probably not the only one who can admit to that. So I'm worried about that. That was memory was one thing, spatial awareness reduction after Google Maps, that's another. But imagination, I mean, that's coming into you guys's and my realm a bit more. I think that starts to hit closer to home, and that worries me more. So
yeah, the offhand way people talk about, like using Chat GPT for getting ideas or brainstorming, it's like, why you're basically delegating your imagination to a machine. It's not helping you brainstorm, it's brainstorming for you. Like that's my concern, is I'm not like you kind of pose this in terms of, we're maybe limiting ourselves. And I believe that these machines are going to be able to do everything that humans can and more. So my concern isn't so much limiting as you're replacing yourself with it. I'm not worried about my imagination being boxed in by it. I'm worried about just losing my own capabilities to something that can do everything that I can do and more. So yeah, it's kind of a grim conversation, but
yeah, that's yeah, I guess in a way you're giving I mean, if I can just jump out here with this, I think you're giving you are more impressed, David, maybe with a, like, I guess I'm saying I'm seeing the dumbing down, like this is just going to dumb us down to be like organic algorithms. Like we're just voluntarily forfeiting different pieces of us to we become like a smaller version of ourselves. And it sounds like you're saying this AI stuff, I mean, certainly none of us thought we'd have image generators or chat dialogue generator things maybe 2 years ago that were as impressive as they are now. So we're going to get something that really is as complex and dynamic as what we think of as being sentient or being a being, I guess, right? Is that fair to say? And then
I mean, I don't believe that.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, so to me, there's what things can do and what they are. And I believe that you can have a machine that basically does what a person can do, but that doesn't make it a person. Right. So to me, the whole, is it sentient, is it not, discussion is kind of pointless. Right.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
An algorithm that's running on a GPU isn't a person. Right.
Yeah.
Now, maybe 10, 20 years down the road and people start doing really crazy stuff like building actual synthetic brains or, weird bionic stuff, then we might have a have to revisit that conversation. But at least for right now, these things aren't people, so we don't have to like. I'm just not interested in a sort of a debate about like some of those categories, right? But that being said, I think that they are certainly going to be capable, and they're going to be capable of a lot more than they are now in short order.
Oh yeah, I mean they're already capable of I mean what we're allowed to see is just a slice of the pie. You know, they're being used currently for and have been for like imagine ChatGPT, but instead of asking it, you know, what the plot synopsis of your next novel is, asking it what the DNA code sequence could be for a synthetic you know, bacterium that generates medicine that's you know, that attacks cancer or something, like a protein generator, synthetic, you know, like that sort of stuff is already being funded. So that's kind of interesting.
Or even setting the sort of scientific discovery aspects of it aside, just something that could do like creative work just as well as a human, or indistinguishably from a human. I think that's, you know, pretty. People don't believe me when I say that, because all the like ChatGPT book generators are still really terrible. But I think it's really just because nobody has really put the time into generating or building one. Like GPT-4 is really, really smart. I mean, I work with it every day for my day job, and it's really crazy what it can do. And it's dumbed down, right? It's been dumbed down for safety reasons. So I think in the next decade, we're going to have stuff that's way smarter than ChatGPT-4 or GPT-4 that is like open source and people are running themselves. And at that point, I mean, all bets are off. So, you know, that a lot of these concerns, I think, are just not, or a lot of the not concerns, but like the sort of like issues, like it not being good enough that we have with it right now, they're going to go away.
Right, like the argument of, well, it's just crap.
Yeah,
is not a valid reason to not use it. We need to rely on our other arguments.
Yeah, I mean, like the image generators went really quickly from, oh, like look at how it's screwing up fingers, to basically producing stuff that looks really, really good. And I mean, you can still tell it's AI because there's a style of images that people like to generate, right? And I think if you have an artist's eye, that you can see that. But I mean, it's getting to the point where I feel like even with a trained eye, it's hard to tell now. You know, and
I agree. I was begging people to like, and that becomes a real challenge, because what is art if it's not an aesthetic experience? Like if it's not the image.
Yeah.
But can we say, and I think there is something more to it than just the image, but like what if the image has no like there's no flaws that tip you off to its origin? Like, does it really matter? And with this caveat, maybe you don't really care and you're willing to give up, you're willing to accommodate the fact that AI made it, because you're honest enough to admit that it's able to make aesthetic experiences for you for it, you know, unlimited amounts for like 20 seconds at a time, stuff that no person has ever thought of before, and you just have to passively consume it. Like if that trade-off doesn't sound like something where you're losing too much, then like, okay, let's not call it art, but you're having an aesthetic experience, and like, why ever look back? You know, it's outperforming, and this is like foreshadowing maybe what we talk about with Eric July type stuff, but it's giving you on-time product in a way.
Yep.
It's giving it to you faster than a human can, frankly, and you've already decided that you're having an equivalent experience looking at it. It's enjoyable. So who cares?
Let's drill into this a little bit, because I think this is maybe one difference. So I think before we get into this, is there any chat?
William Jeffrey Rankin said, "Is there a difference between ChatGPT and, for an example, a commonplace book for ideation?"
Well, certainly. I mean, a commonplace book is typically just sort of ideas that you have or things that you see that stimulate ideas. So they're things that are being filtered through your immediate like choices and experience somehow. Talking with ChatGPT, you're basically getting an aggregation of like the whole entire internet filtered through a machine learning model that's been trained in a way by probably sort of sinister people to give you what you want.
Yeah.
With certain restrictions.
Yeah, and if we think about the reasons that we promote and enjoy indies and independent fiction, ChatGPT has the potential to I saw somebody in the chat use the word hamstring, right?
Yeah, that's a good word.
Hamstring our independent thought, our independent creativity at the drawing board stage, where, like Matt is saying, instead of having our own experiences and likes and dislikes and things that we are pulling from ourselves,
so more intentional sort of research that you would do, it's all in a continuum, but
it is filtered through someone's idea of acceptability, and that has the potential to then just put out mediocre product as far as the scope and scale of imagination.
Or maybe it's really, really good, but it's kind of not yours, maybe as much as sort of your own.
Yeah, if you're talking about making the entire text,
no, I meant
as
just
opposed
getting
to
ideas.
just getting ideas.
Yeah.
I guess I have doubts that it would be compelling and interesting, even if it is more marketable.
Yeah.
Say.
And I mean, I think what I would say and what I'm kind of getting at is like at this, but what I want to get into about this sort of definition of art is like at this point, I mean, we're operating in a sphere where we are sort of deciding that we are looking for art and entertainment in a niche place. So we're making choices about how we're getting that. And I have decided that whether or not anybody else feels the same way about it, I don't want AI art. Right. So, and the things that I like, aren't just sort of aesthetic experiences. I would like to have art that is made by a person, even if I can't distinguish those things from things that are made by a machine. I would rather put my money on something that a person made.
I love that. That's on the very principle. It has nothing to do with the image itself, which is where where the conversation should have started 2 years ago when these things really popped off, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But we got distracted with the number of fingers.
Yeah.
So we're kind of behind it.
And there's a lot of reasons why there's, issues with the actual product itself that comes out of AI. But whether it's
legal issues or.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have moral objections to how AI is trained. I have technical issues. There's sort of like everybody's concerned with safety, so let's hamstring things. Everybody's worried about pornography, so let's hamstring things. But like, I'm operating under the assumption that within my lifetime there's going to be, I don't know if we're ever going to get to the point where you just like type a couple words and you get a whole high quality custom movie. That still seems like a bit of a stretch to me, but certainly books are going to be there. Certainly just normal images, right? Maybe comics, right? But like, I'd like something that's made by a person to a greater degree, than AI.
And from where I'm sitting as a reader, when an author in particular puts their time and effort into writing this great story and then slaps an AI cover on it, I don't come away necessarily going, oh yeah, that looks great. I come away going, okay, why am I still paying the same amount for
wow.
Because it didn't take any of your time or effort, except maybe in crafting the right search term, I guess. And I feel like the book is a product as a whole.
Yeah.
And
for better or for worse.
Right.
Yeah, cover included. Yeah.
If you didn't want that to be true, just put the title on as text, right? Like I just AI art is saying something to me that says in general an author cares less about my experience as a whole and more about putting something out there. Less about their craft, more about how can I get this, slap it out there as fast as possible.
Yeah, like it's like, do you want to make something and have control? Like this is another way I've sort of tweeted about how I think about, like, do you want to have control over creating something, or you just want to have that thing?
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Like, do you just want to have a cover, or do you want to make a cover? And maybe by make, that could even involve like working with a real person who can do art, visual art, if you can't, to make it. But like, I don't want to just have things, right? I want to make things, and I want to have some control over them. And I don't see AI art as helping that. Right.
Well,
there's all kinds of things I could have, but I don't want to have things. I want to make them.
Yeah.
Well, so because I'm agreeing with you guys way too much. Can I introduce? I think maybe we can. Maybe I don't know. I might be sitting on a different side if I take a different approach. So okay, so I completely agree with you when it comes to art, including the written word. But I'm okay with just having memes. Do you know what I mean? And I think AI is it's closer to generating memes in a way. It's just memes that don't have a format in a way. It's just off the cuff, one-off visual communication meant to convey some easily digestible idea. And I don't think of any of that require, like, it doesn't have to rise to the level of art for it to be functional. It's like a pictograph or something, and I think there is room. Like, culture's always kind of had different registers for visual images. It's had like the art register, and then it's had the like just the shorthand version. Just get me something that is effective, that tells me, conveys an idea. And I think that's what image generators can be good at. Like, I think you may have saw, because it made the rounds, I was retweeting it. Somebody had recently read Out of the Silent Planet.
Yeah, that was terrible.
It just kind of memed, like, it was like, okay, how do I write a summary about how I liked it, but I also want to capture some eyes, so I want an image with that. I don't have to just put the book cover from an edition I liked over the years. I don't have to just put the book cover anymore. And obviously, it's such a weird, fantastical story. I can't take a photograph, or I can't just Google something like that, like a moon man who's like a giant beaver or otter in in a boat and stuff. So like let's just generate it, and then that conveys the idea. And I think that's kind of interesting, even if it's awful aesthetically. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of interesting that people are catching on to that. What do you think about that?
So, I think it's certainly interesting. I personally hope that they don't replace memes, and I don't think that they will. I think the thing about memes is that they were always, if like, and maybe this will come back around to sort of a definition of art, because I think you've talked about like art as an aesthetic experience. I would define art more as a artifact of expressing something like very deep feelings or ideas of a person.
From internal to external?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
So I don't know if memes are really art, but they are certainly a form of expression. And I think that before AI art, memes often were sort of more like, if you were going to have an analogy to sort of like a traditional visual art medium, and I'm talking out of my butt here because I don't really understand how people like think about these things, in a scholarly way, but it would be more like collage, right? So
sure.
Again, if you have AI coming in and just say, I'm just going to make the image for you, then all of a sudden it's not anywhere near the same thing at all. And and I think, like the fact that even collage takes some effort, right? There's like the value in like, I'm gonna see this meme and I'm gonna save it, I'm gonna reuse it. Whereas AI art is like, I'm gonna just type in big otter man and I get my image, and it doesn't look very good, so I don't have to save it, right? It just seems very, very different.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. I mean, it's certainly, they're distinct from each other.
Yeah.
But like the idea of like a someone who doesn't practice art for a living or a hobby saying, I just want to visually communicate an idea in my mind, and I can Google image search that, which is like a very new phenomenon. We didn't even have a category. There was no even equivalent for that, I guess, other than like, I don't know, flipping through your mom's like National Geographic magazines or something, and then cutting stuff out and collaging it, like you said. So that's a whole new category. But like, and we've just completely normalized that. But now there's this new thing where we can say, I'm going to make my own Google image search result, I guess, in a way, is kind of what it feels like. And I'm just the one-off, like, don't even as you see it, don't even think about it more than a second. Don't regard it for more than a second, because I didn't think about it for more than a second, and certainly don't pay for it. But it explains an idea, it communicates an idea, and that's just weird. Like, I don't know, I just find that fascinating. Like you said, you work with ChatGPT every day for your day job. I actually work with image generators a lot, certainly on at least a weekly basis with my day job, and that's not a world I thought I'd ever be in. I went to college, I went to grad school with art stuff, and now and I'm engaging with image generators. So I'd had to figure out, well, what are they good for? And I think they are. It's a very narrow. I mean, they just, people certainly want them to creep into other fields. But I like this idea, and I think this is what has got me in hot I've gotten in trouble in the past
Yeah.
in our circles by saying like I like this democratization of the like everybody has ideas in their heads. Like imagination is not special. Like everybody has probably great ideas in their heads, but few people train with art to make it, you know, like your great ideas aren't special. You probably have a blockbuster in your head. You probably have a best-selling story in your head. And so does your uncle, and so does the guy down the street. But can you make it? You know, that takes your whole life to figure out how to do.
So I think we're lighting on another point of disagreement here.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Because I think that from what I understand, people have varying degrees of imagination, right? Like we've all seen that that image that goes around that's with the apple, like if you close your eyes,
the 3D rotating apple.
Well, not rotating, but just what do you see when you think of an apple, right? And I mean, there are people who don't have any visual imagination at all, and some of these people are actually like even really good authors, like Rob Cruzy. He doesn't have any visual imagination, so
by his own
admission
on that kind of Twitter thread,
right? So he actually even described how when he writes books, he mainly talks about dialogue and action and kind of goes back and fills in visual details. I know from personal experience, I have a less. I think I still have a pretty vivid visual imagination because I can come up with interesting designs and things in my head, but it is nowhere near as vivid and real as when I was a child. Like I can remember as a child,
interesting,
picture things in my head, and I don't know whether that's my brain is just fried from not getting enough sleep for a number of years, or just I've got older and I'm dying, or what. But like I know, like in my own life, I've experienced a range of that, right? I mean, I think I have better ideas now than when I was a kid, but it's not as like vivid. But
hopefully it's not the technology making our imaginations complacent, you know, closer to the grave.
Where I was sort of going with all of this is that I don't know if I really believe, I don't know if I agree with you that everybody has good ideas, right?
Yeah.
I think where I'm kind of going with this is that I think it's easy for a lot of people to think like, oh, I have this really good idea. But the thing is like in my experience as someone who, like, I believe I have very vivid ideas, where those ideas really like come to life is in actually creating the thing. It's not like when I spend time building something, anything, it's like, it's not time that is spent translating this very complete picture I have in my head.
Yeah, you discover the idea as you make it.
Yeah, and
kind
it's still
unveils
your imagination,
itself.
right? It's still imagination, but it's not like, you know, like my novel. I didn't have every bit of it in my head. Like some of the best stuff in that book were just things that came to me as I was writing, and then they get developed, you know. So I don't really believe,
I like what you're saying.
I don't really believe that people have, like, an AI art apologists do this all the time. Like, oh, like we're losing out on all these great ideas because people can't express them. It's like, no, you don't have good ideas. The expression is the thing, right? You know, like
I want to agree with you, but I want to disagree with you because I want to say, I mean, we're talking about the image of God. We're talking about, like, you know, like it's not like there's a bunch of people with gray 2D, you know, apples floating in their heads just because they didn't learn how to draw or how to write creatively. You know what I mean? Like, I guess like I get excited thinking about. I know these apologists push it too far, but I get excited about the possibility of. Well, let's just. I'll briefly say it this way: Hollywood is full of very, very talented people Not necessarily with good ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And there's a lot of people who have less trained skill. This has always been the case. Less trained skill who might have better ideas, but just haven't had the time, or maybe the physical dexterity, or there could be any number of reasons why they haven't been able to figure out how to make the artifact, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's a bit of a tragedy. And things like Photoshop have been like a quantum leap in the creative field, like kind of
Mm-hmm.
democratizing people's ability to not just not have to have a painting studio to figure out their
Mm-hmm.
visual ideas, or word processors. They don't have to depend on expensive typewriter equipment and stuff, or
Mm-hmm.
reams of paper. There's something really interesting, typing how many words a minute faster than they could ever write.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's really cool. Like, maybe you get better idea. Like, that's an efficiency thing getting solved, but that efficiency thing can sometimes unlock more creative diversity out there, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a bigger ecosystem that of people's ideas that now have more opportunity to flourish in their own little micro ecosystems, where they can find more niches because they don't have to go to California to learn those skills. Now they can just sit on their laptop and generate what they believe to be their own ideas all day on Midjourney or something.
Yeah.
So I've already kind of said how much I agree with you that there's problems with that.
Well,
But anyway, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I think the thing is that some of these tools that you mentioned, like computer word processing and Photoshop, those tools still require you to have control and have your own ideas. AI art does not. And
that's fair.
Just to go back to the example that we were talking about before, the Out of the Silent Planet otter AI image.
Yeah,
that image was terrible, right? It was literally just a guy and a giant otter. When I read that book, so I read Out of the Silent Planet a long time ago. I think I was maybe in high school. I don't really remember much about it, but I remembered, like, when I saw that image, I was like, oh yeah, they're talking about Out of the Silent Planet, and so it worked in a certain degree. But
yeah, that's the measurement tool. Like, that's how I'm evaluating it.
Yeah. But like, for me, thinking back to that book, I don't have a very concrete memory of it, but I have sort of like, it's almost like a memory of it at this point. But I have when I close my eyes and I think about it, I see lots of color, like alien color. I remember like the aliens wearing really weird clothes. And like, if I'm reading a book and it says something like the creature looks kind of like a giant otter, I mean, I don't picture a literal giant otter. Like, my mind will come up with a creature design that doesn't look like a literal giant otter.
I just to reinforce your point, I tend to think Lewis, I read him as an adult with his fiction. I don't think he had a very he was like that other author that you mentioned. I don't think he pictured things a lot. I think the way he wrote, he didn't spend a lot of time on descriptions. And when he did, I feel like it was the words themselves that he was having fun with.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, he was wordsmithing, and that was the character. He was trying to add flavor in the reading more than painting pictures. And I think there's a lot to be said for that when you try to translate that, particularly to an AI image. I think that's why a lot of the covers that we've seen for Out of the Silent Planet over the years have been like very phantasmagorical. Like, it's not just because it was from the 70s, so that's part of it. but like it just looks completely bizarre. That whole trilogy, they'll throw all kinds of strange things at it, and I think it's because what Lewis did, particularly in that book, was like I remember there was like half of the first chapter where they land on the moon. Like he spends so many pages just trying to disorient you as about what your expectations could even be for a landscape, and it took like, I think it took hours for Ransom to even realize he was looking at a sea with mountains, just because of the gravity difference or something. Like the water just kind of the waves came higher than they should. Like he didn't even know what he was looking at. It was like being born and having the sensory experience of a newborn. Like, and that's how he described things. So yeah, to your point, putting an otter next to a boat, next to a man, almost does violence to the essence of what that book was. But that's what memes do, I guess, in a way. They just say, remember the thing, here's the thing.
Well,
you know,
and if that's the goal, I don't see how, and I'm not saying that you're making this claim, but to me, collage of a Google image of a giant otter next to a guy would work just as well as that AI image, and might be even funnier, because there's this kind of like, there's this humor to memes, and like, you know, juxtaposing weird things and har, and
that's true.
Lewis lends itself to that on Twitter, you know. So so I mean, it certainly would take a little bit more effort to actually do that, but it might be just as effective at the kind of like, oh, it's the giant otter from Out of the Silent Planet, right?
Yeah, like forcefully recontextualized for No, that's true. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I want to go back to one thing that we talked about a little bit with the idea of lost ideas.
Yeah.
I appreciate your point about like the democratic, or the how it's more accessible, right? There's the potential for more people to be able to not realize their vision, but bring thoughts out of just your head, you know. There's a kind of a funny book. It's not funny. It's not intentionally funny. Called The History of Book Destruction.
Universal History of the Destruction of Books.
Yes.
Wow.
I have it on my shelf, and I just moved it the other day because I was
powerful title.
Things. And it's really interesting stuff, and talks about, you know, the Nazis burning books and different horrible vandalism through the years, lost libraries, things like that. But then it goes and it talks about how everyone has books on their e-readers, and every time you drop an e-reader and it breaks and you lose all those books, like for the cloud, you know, like that. And it sort of like hitched the idea of virtual books.
Virtual libraries in your purse. Yeah. It's insane.
They're not quite the same, right? And I think it's kind of a similar thing with ideas that you as just like an average, not very creative person, like have in your head and don't have that, just bring it into reality. Those ideas being quote unquote lost is just part of being a person. And you almost like, you think about those ideas that you have like as you're falling asleep, and sometimes you have the wherewithal to like jot them down, and in the morning you look at them and it's complete nonsense. It's like that was not a thought that was worth saving, right? So
Yeah, they never are. You know. Wasn't that a Seinfeld episode? I think.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, where he wakes up in the middle of the night with a joke.
This is a great joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. On an existential level, it may be this is just one more incremental step deeper into fooling ourselves that anything is permanent, and that we really can, like on a cosmic level, like imprint ourselves on the stars. and like having a library in an e-reader, not just one book but unlimited numbers now, means that I don't have to ever remember my favorite line from my favorite book anymore. I can just bring it up,
Mhm.
And there's something gained from that, and there's something lost.
Yeah.
And we have to weigh the cost and the benefit. We have to be honest with ourselves of the benefit and the cost, and ask, is it worth it? Are we gaining something that is more valuable than what we're losing? Because we're certainly losing something,
Right.
and gaining something.
Yeah, and I think that's the tough part of it, is there is something that we are gaining.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to say to people, well, you should value the thing that we're losing more than the thing that you could potentially gain.
Yeah.
Especially
That's
talking
challenging.
about authors who can't afford to commission cover art or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I can very easily from my position say, well, then don't do cover art, right?
Yeah.
But it's because of my value. I place more
Mm-hmm.
value on the thing that's being lost than on what they see as what they're gaining.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah. So I think definitely we found like one difference between us is we have a different definition of what art is, at least in the context of this discussion, right? I think we're kind of seeing each other's positions here, but I think that's something. I think we kind of tend to see art as like a human project, as like a necessarily human project.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, something that is inside being.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's conceptualized and through skill and practice and trial and error, and it's extremely human
to a greater or lesser degree. I
right.
mean, there's all kinds of different mediums that can,
mm-hmm.
Where you can sort of operate at different points on this, but it's a challenge.
Mm-hmm. But specifically the in the context of this conversation, especially like from the brainstorming to the actualization, every part of it, the human person is in control and drawing from their inspirational experiences and
and then obviously whatever physical artifact that the consumer interacts with is going to be a facsimile, a greater or lesser facsimile of that work, right? I think Matt, this is something that you've brought up, because like I remember one of your early examples was where you were talking about like casting statues as like an example. An analogy.
I forgot about that analogy.
Yeah. So like in that case, I'd sort of distinguish between like the art, the thing itself, and the instances of it, right? So you have like a sculptor who sculpts a statue, and then like maybe I have an instance of that work as the cast sculpture in my garden, but the original was art. The original was craft somehow, to a greater or lesser degree.
Well, that's what's neat, because I promise I won't delve into this too much, but just to reinforce your point, but maybe to undermine it.
Mhm.
The original with like a lost wax sculpture, even the
Yeah.
original is lost.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's what's neat, is that they're all iterations.
Yep.
And at some point you take off your artist hat and you put on like a physics engineer, you know, a metalsmith hat or whatever the final medium is, which is also very cool, but it becomes this it's become something different in a way, which I think is really neat. And then we call all of that art, like the final result, you know. But it isn't. I don't know. There's something really complicated there that I think's interesting. Where it's almost like we're saying there is a way for, as you say, the expressing that internal onto the physical world into an artifact form. There's some interesting way where that can get transposed onto those instances in a way.
Yep.
And that's fascinating. We can talk about Michelangelo's David, and not just the one in Florence. I think we can talk about it, like the 6-inch statue I bought in the gift shop outside the Duomo or something. Like that's kind of interesting, you know. But I don't know. Maybe that's too much of a tangent. But like, if we can do that with sculpture, we can talk about, we can talk about like how there's an art to like car design or something, which is inherently like a manufacturing. We're really just talking about manufacturing. Is there art in manufacturing? That's probably like a whole different topic. But I love how there's really not there's very impermeable borders with any of this, because they're all, honestly, at the end of the day, they're all uniquely human experiences and practices. Like, we're impacting the world through manufacturing and through art. And so, those are uniquely human. So maybe it's okay for those to have blurred boundaries sometimes, because at the end of the day, they're just human expressions. So they're going to have aesthetic components. They're going to have practical.
Yeah.
It's all image of God stuff. So
Yep.
Anyway, that's me trying to help.
Yeah, no, that's good. And it would be fun actually just to talk about this particular topic a little bit more. Another thing that I might toss out there to kind of transition to our second topic is, one of the things I find really interesting about comics is that, like, historically, so much of the process of making comics seems very intimately tied to the medium, like the physical medium that was used to, and the method of distribution of it, right? It's not like nowadays you can sort of make a comic however you want, and then you can print it, right?
Or not print it.
Or not print it.
Put it on Webtoons. Just have it be this big scrollable collage.
Yeah, but in the past, so much about the process had to do with the schedule, the limitations of printing and coloring.
Subdividing the tasks.
Yep, all that stuff. So you had a penciler, for people who don't know, it's like you have a penciler, and then you have an inker, because you kind of need that really dark, those dark outlines to be able to sort of make the printing process. And then early coloring, my understanding was, it's like this very almost mechanical kind of like describing areas where certain of a very small combination of colors would be, plotched onto areas of the page, right?
Pretty flatly, right?
Yeah, it's all very intimately tied to the way, like, the actual physical medium and the constraints of how it was actually going to be distributed. So it's like the whole process of reducing the work, or the creative work, or the vision, down to the instances, is like, it's all very mixed together.
Michael Caine said, I'm not sure I 100% buy where you guys are going. As a musician, does that mean only live music is art? because it's obviously different recorded.
Oh yeah, and see, I'm not arguing that the instances aren't art.
Sure.
I'm just saying that you can make a meaningful distinction between the two without
it is different.
Undermining the fact that the original is art, right? Like what I'm opposed to is saying, oh well, like because you only listen to a recording of music, that's no different than having a computer algorithm generate the recording.
Sure.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like and Matt, I kind of like I think I've had this argument with you before. Like that time we were kind of arguing on Twitter about like, are we really communicating? I know this is a disagreement they have. Like, are you really communicating when?
Oh yeah, that's what we were. Yeah.
Over tweets or over.
I think all of it's a simulacrum. So like,
I got kind of mad at you about that.
I know. I think I made you nauseous, if I remember.
Is this chat camaraderie?
Yeah, and my position on all of that stuff is that you can acknowledge the intermediaries, and they should be acknowledged.
Yeah, they're real.
The fact that real communication is taking place, more or less, right? That's my position.
Okay, that's hard to argue against. It's difficult to tell where the medium ends and that real communication begins, but it's possible to approximate that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you got to study the medium. I just worry, like most, like, okay, you're gonna agree with this, unfortunately, but like, there's so much of the internet, like we've been saying, that we've just kind of absorbed and internalized and had be really just be extensions of ourselves and our own identities now, that we can't even tell where the medium is. So we think we're looking at all kinds of things that we're not actually looking at, and I kind of like the violence of AI images shaking, like smacking us about the face and saying, you dolt, this was never real. I don't care how real this looks, it's not real, and making everybody doubt everything now. It's kind of nice. People are getting nauseous just opening their apps now. Like, well, I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore. It's like, good, you should have thought that in 2001, but now you're thinking in 2024. Better late than never. That's all I meant by that. So.
I definitely see the point that you're making there, but I think that is actually a point of disagreement, because I think I would argue that it is real, and I mean, there's certainly people who lose an understanding of the filters that things are being put through.
Yeah,
there's certainly filters that are happening that we don't understand, but the violence of AI is actually a machine is taking the place of something that was real. To a greater or lesser degree, right? I think that's how I would say that.
Those pixels on a screen that may or may not have been photoshopped without your knowledge or permission. I don't know. I guess I was probably leaning into something to make a point that,
and it's good,
maybe,
and it's good that it's challenging that assumption. But like, the fact that some photos were photoshopped, or the fact that most photoshops are photoshopped, doesn't change the fact that they were photos of real things, right? Whereas AI is like this completely artificial thing.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's not a reality that's being filtered. It's a utterly synthetic. If I don't use the word satanic to describe AI, but I understand. You could kind of use a word like satanic to describe sort of the like where that image is coming from, right? It's not something that is like
from the void.
It's not like a natural fallen or filtered thing. It's like a satanic
oh my gosh
thing, right?
Yeah. I don't know. This might be a part 2, but I kind of want to argue that like photoshopping stuff is satanic, because it's starting with something original and then modifying it. I don't know. I was just trying to be rhetorical. I was just trying to say, wake up, sheeple.
And that's a really important conversation to have. And that's, I think, a good thing about AI is that it's making people
much more skeptical and hesitant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me look over our chat here.
It's good stuff in the chat.
Been trying to like star things to bring up
some really great chats.
William Jeffrey Rankin said, we're in something of a postmodern period in product design now where solving problems is no longer always the goal. This was a while ago.
Yeah.
Patrick says, we'll want real authors because we'll want to hate real people's ideas, not a computer's.
Yep.
Yeah.
Timo says, you realize your great idea is not so great when you try to bring it to life. That was kind of almost a reverse of what David was saying. And Michael Caine said, I prefer to say that idea quality is less important than execution. Good ideas are great, sure, but dumb ideas well executed are golden. And the Ultimate Kahuna said, a bad idea well executed can be fantastic. And he also said, I take a personal stance in regards to AI, and for the Iron Age specifically, one of our biggest selling points is individual expression and authenticity, which does not lend itself to AI whatsoever. And I would agree with that.
That's very fair. Yeah. Handcrafted.
All right.
Great. Well, should we pivot to the other
Trashcast and comics drama?
Yeah, and I've been talking a lot, so why don't you kind of lead this one off?
Oh, great.
Hey, you've been watching more of the comics drama? This is funny.
So it's particularly interesting to me because of the direction that it's taken.
Oh, yeah.
So Ethan Van Sciver decided to review ISOM on, I don't know, was he calling it Trashcast at that point?
Yeah, it started, it's a parody of Flashcast.
Yeah.
Right. So it started with his beef with Yellow Flash.
So this is several drama steps away from the original drama.
It's great. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, this is our days of our lives, but interactive.
I follow Ethan Van Sciver. I am mutuals with a lot of people who are closer to Eric July, so I get a lot of his stuff. So I've seen a lot of it in my Twitter feed. And
just for context, I've been listening to pretty much like every live stream that Ethan's done over the past year and some months. I really like him. I think he's a great communicator. I generally agree with his ideas about things. I think he's a great storyteller. I love just listening to him tell stories about his day. And I'm not a member of Comicsgate, so I don't mind him being mean because he's not being mean to me. Right. So I have some distance from it all.
For like the last year, right? David will come up to me and be like, babe, can I play you a clip? And it's just like, sometimes Mandy Summers is in there. Sometimes some like other Comicsgate woman will be in there, but 100% of the time it is just guys talk. And he's tearing up laughing. And I'm like, why am I even here? So but that's kind of where we're coming from with this. I don't care about,
but you've started to care apparently, which is interesting.
Well, because it started touching on my philosophy.
Yeah, it's less about their actual beef and more about kind of how these things are being talked about in the bigger indie community.
So we talked a little bit towards the beginning of their drama about what we thought as far as obligations. So if you're interested in that kind of conversation, you could go watch that stream.
That's specifically about the indie promotion obligations issue, which is a little separate from their drama.
Right.
But there's touches on it a little bit.
So something that came up with Ethan reviewing ISOM, and yes, he did it with a Sharpie and says, I was very interested in how it came up after the fact. Someone reshared his original tweets about ISOM, sort of saying that it was fine, right? Like that he thought that the art. I don't remember.
Largely positive review.
Yeah.
And since my thing is positive reviews, I thought it would be interesting to talk a little bit about how he did that positive review, how he shifted in the way that he was talking about it, whether or not his position actually shifted or just the rhetoric around how he was expressing how he felt about it.
Fascinating.
I can fill in some of those details because I was watching the whole time through all that stuff was going on.
And then from there to moving into actual criticism, which a lot of people in the sort of Iron Age adjacent, not some people in the Iron Age too, have sort of said, we would like to see more criticism and how that has manifested.
And we've, for the sake of transparency, we've generally pushed back a little bit on we want to see more criticism front, because like we personally think
I've noticed
being critical. There's not enough positive promotion. So it's interesting to see this kind of pivot, and
and I respect that position you'll have. I think it's pretty cool.
And it's interesting to see like what's going on with the CG drama, from like being from the position of like, we don't believe that's our job. Right.
I don't need to defend either side. They can do their own arguing and drama farming,
and we can enjoy it.
We can enjoy it.
It's a product. It's entertainment. It
is, and I think there's redeeming qualities to it aside from just the drama itself. Like I think Ethan's reviews have been good and
constructive.
As somebody who might make a comic someday, like I've learned things. And he's done here and there. He's done reviews like this in the past. Like a few months ago, he scribbled up some Image #1s. Like he did a review of Youngblood #1 and Spawn.
Oh, cool
stuff. Yeah, it was, and that is some of the best stuff. Really, really good content. Really, just good content, good discussions, funny and really informative. So it's neat to see him doing this. I understand how it's like uncomfortable. But it's also I think there's redeeming qualities to it.
It's been years of one camp saying, can we just make it about the comics, and one camp just saying, give us some fun drama, and finally both sides can get what they want. Which is fun. Like you can actually learn how to make a better comic through this drama, and that wasn't always the case. There were years of just the drama was entirely segregated from the comics. So I welcome this. Absolutely.
I think so. Just from my perspective, as far as like looking at Ethan's initial positive review of ISOM that he tweeted publicly, from my standpoint, I would not have done that. I think a positive review should be positive, if that makes sense. If he had all of these misgivings at that time,
just to get a leg up in the sector, you shouldn't just make a positive review to garner attention or something, or get along with your peers.
And he kind of asserted, when it came up now recently, he sort of asserted that he was actually sort of lying in the review, and that it was kind of like a coded dig at issues.
Kind of seems that way.
I think that Ethan's good enough communicator that I could believe that. I don't see it. But what I will say, and I don't have a whole lot to say about this, is I was definitely listening to Ethan when he made that review, and he did not say very much about ISOM at all on streams.
Sure.
So he was definitely friendly with Eric. He had Eric on a couple times, and they were talking about the success of the different campaigns. I forget if I was watching Ethan when ISOM 1 was coming out, but I definitely was watching him when they were promoting ISOM number 2 and when he got ISOM number 1 and reviewed it, and he was not talking about it very much.
Mhm.
So for what it's worth, I don't think you can say he was like constantly gushing about it or
Right.
anything like that. He was not saying much about it. And the impression that I got from him was, oh yeah, like it was a good first try.
Sure.
Like that's the impression that I got. Not that, oh, it was super, super fantastic and great and the best thing ever. It was like, it was a good first try. It was maybe not written the best, but there were things to like about it.
Mhm.
That's the impression that I got. So should he have given it a positive review if he thought it was horrible? No, but the impression that I got was like, it was okay. And then when he kind of came back and started looking at it more critically, then he started thinking
Sure.
more critically about it. He was like, okay, there's some bigger problems. And honestly, he might not have noticed the art
Mhm.
issues at the beginning. That might have been something that kind of popped out more when after other people talked about it too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to some extent, you're going to open a book and look at it differently. Like you bring a lot to a book, you
Yeah.
know, and every time you come to it, whether you like, maybe the creator is 3 times more profitable than you, and is
Mhm.
very intimidating in the space, and you're trying to get along, you're going to open that book differently
Yep.
Mhm.
than
Mhm.
when you are rivals with that person. Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you just don't expect that the person is using 3D models or
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? It took a while. I'm sure you remember, people, that was not what people were saying for months and months,
Mhm.
maybe a year.
Mhm.
People were just saying it looked kind of boring and kind of stiff, but no
Mhm.
one figured it out. And now it looks like the most obvious thing in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I
And-
guess we've all kind of collectively been training our brains to spot this sort of stuff.
Yeah. And just
But yeah.
I'm going to say one more thing about this, and I'm going to hand it back over to Katie, just because I don't want to forget the thought. I feel like the issue with the 3D models that's getting missed a lot is the issue is not like, at least my understanding of Ethan's gripe is not even so much that the models are traced. It's that they were sort of like rendered and just plopped down. So I'm almost wondering if when he looked at it first, he was kind of like, oh, there's a lot of tracing going on here. And then coming back to it and looking at it again, he's like, oh, this isn't even traced. It's just rendered with the filter thrown over it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So it's like looking at it from the beginning, you're like, oh yeah, there's a lot of like traced photo reference here or something. And then you look at it again, it's like, oh, it's not even traced. It's just straight off rendered as a vector line art with this very consistent sort of brush filter on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
So and I think a lot of people who aren't quite in the midst of it are missing that distinction that's been made.
Yeah, that's a pretty difficult thing to communicate to people. Honestly, frankly, like somehow people can understand AI, I think, even if they've never tried it. AI images, I think explaining 3D models behind something is offensive to other artists sometimes. I'm not seeing a terrible amount of people, of just regular readers, being offended by that, and then explaining the filtering and how renders, like, you start to lose people, which I think is kind of interesting. But yeah, anyway, yeah. But Katie, what you're making really interesting points about positive reviews, like how to do them well.
Well, yeah. And that's the reason that this whole conversation is interesting to me at all, because I'm not a comic person. I think that they're fun, and I like a lot of the things that come with them, like action figures.
But neither of us are superhero people.
But I'm not super into superheroes as a genre. So
yeah, neither am I.
But when it started getting into the sort of nitty gritty of reviewing, I was a little bit more interested, and I think, like we've said, the fact that there was very little said, for someone who knows, right, that could be a tip off in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are just a outside observer, someone who's interested in buying the comic, and you just hear, the one line, Ethan liked it, right? Mm-hmm. That it can be misleading. And I think it gets tough when there's like these like negotiations, like politically, right? Like you said, trying to get along with people in the industry, and
people breaking each other's careers. Everyone's a little vulnerable, right? Yeah.
And I definitely have experienced kind of feeling a pressure to review a certain book or person's work because they are large or active, badgering me, right? Like they circle back like, hey, have you read my book? Hey, have you read my book? It's like, I really should just do that, right? But I think that it doesn't do anyone any favors to put out half-hearted positive reviews. It's tough for sure. And I can even see if someone like Ethan Van Sciver, who is an experienced artist and specifically comics, like he knows his stuff. If he was looking over anything to kind of put it through a filter of understanding your own knowledge of the craft, and saying, well, it's not amazing, but probably people will buy it and like it, right? Mm-hmm.
That's maybe not super helpful.
Especially since like your name is going with your tiny 1 or 2 line review, and people know that you know stuff, right? People are looking at your review with their understanding of your experience. So instead of dumbing down your belief in the experience that the product will give the average person, being open and honest about how you experienced it is going to be more helpful to everybody involved.
It's something that CG I think has really struggled with is there's always been a lot of advocacy for creators and for readers and customers, but there needs to be a reviewer class too. And like me and my friends and I have tried to like do the fair and unbiased review thing, and that gets political real quick, and everyone will support a creator will endorse your review channel until you get to their comic. And then you might have because we would do a show where we do like, it could be an hour, maybe 2 of in-depth reviewing a comic, and the creator's sitting in the back room in the green room the whole time. They're not allowed on at all, and then they come on afterwards, and then we just do a Q&A, and hopefully we try to ask them interesting stuff about their career, but we don't try to we try to keep them from trying to answer what we said over the last 2 hours, like, oh, but actually you didn't understand. But often it would go in that direction, and people would feel kind of bruised by a review, even if we tried to, focus on the positives, but like do it critically. That's really challenging, and the CG's never been very good. It starts to feel like a business threat, I think.
Yeah.
Especially if you're dealing with like $1 million campaigns, like Ethan. Like, do you really want to be, like co-signing like a reviewer class within a movement that is giving, fair and honest reviews? That's what we're here to do, unlike the mainstream. So we might give you a less than positive review. And that's going to affect my sales. So maybe I need to be quiet about you guys, or maybe be a little critical about what you guys are doing.
Right.
That's really hard. So I'm sure, like, you as a reviewer are probably, I think you're in a tougher spot than a creator or a customer, because you have to love this medium, and you have to love the community that's making this art, these books, but you have to hold everyone at an arm's distance much more than these other groups can, like, you really have to hold them at a distance in order for you to be fair and balanced.
Well, and I feel bad because I get followed by a lot of authors, and I just, probably around 500, I was like, I can't follow everybody back. Like, I
sure.
And I want to be friends with everybody and have fun. But at the same time, I also, I don't want to find myself in an uncomfortable situation. There's always going to be politics to it, right? But at the same time, I think that there's a way to do it well. And I think it involves being honest about what you thought was fun. And if you think there's problems, you don't necessarily have to talk about them in anything more than a cursory way. But you should be able to stand up and say, well, I enjoyed what I said, I thought was good. And the way that Ethan did it, saying that his review was actually poking at the things, sort of like a kind of,
it's like a coded message almost.
In saying it in such a way that the people who did the work would know that he was
taking a
jab at them. Like, sure, they know, but like that, it's kind of disingenuous, and I was a little bit frustrated with that.
Do you think, like, is this one more thing maybe that the Iron Age is doing better than CG, like, which is in some ways its predecessor, like, just being like a reviewing audience as well as a reading audience, like having the chops to review. And
I've seen a lot of people reviewing, like, from within.
That's neat.
Like, not necessarily Iron Agers only reviewing other Iron Agers, but Iron Agers doing the work of reviewing, and I think that is wonderful. And I think that if someone does that consistently, it builds up a reputation that readers then trust, right? This person liked a book that I also liked, and when they did their review, they hit on points that I thought were important. Here's a book they reviewed that I haven't read that they liked. I'll go check that out. That kind of consistent reviewing snowballs. I can't.
That's really profound.
Enough with the way that Comicsgate does that.
The thing about the Iron
No,
Age.
it's just like, go back this. This looks awesome. Like that's as complicated as it's been for like 6 years, and that's been a problem.
Well, and the Iron Age is more, I would say, is more decentralized,
True.
right?
Yeah,
Like, I
that's
think
cool.
the most of the like the Comicsgate stuff that I watch is kind of like more like the Comicsgate Kings stuff. I know there's a lot of other creators associated with Comicsgate, but I
Right.
mostly watch like Ethan and his sort of inner circle, and they're just sort of like a promotion powerhouse, right? They're not really there to like critique each other's work.
Mm-hmm.
It's more just about promoting, and they're letting other people do the critique. They're not trying to set up a central critique authority. Even like Ethan tearing into Eric July now, I feel like is less about, like, Ethan isn't trying to be a gatekeeper so much as he's like, he had his whole beef with Eric was about like Ethan thought Eric should be better at taking criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like specific reasons that he was after him about that. So this is it's almost like it's not like Ethan thinks he should be the gatekeeper of indie comics. It's more like, I'm trying to prove a point about the need for like iron sharpening iron, right?
And I think that wasn't. I would suggest that wasn't always the case with Ethan, which I think is interesting. And it may be that he's taking notes from the Iron Age, which I think has been more consistently for all the reasons you guys have mentioned. It's just like more. It's philosophically pointed in a distinctly different direction that's more open to critique. And I think he's submitted to that being like no, that's actually valid. We do need to be if the answer to bad stories is good stories, then we need to be publicly continuously talking about what a good story is, and talking about when good stories do happen, and maybe talking about when imperfect stories, like how they could be better, like, and that helps everybody. Like that's that to tie it in, that's how you decentralize the market. The more you have these interesting conversations about how to tell better stories, everybody can take notes with that, and everybody can learn how to tell better stories as a result. You don't just have to go down to the bookstore and hope you meet somebody and have a conversation about a book. Now everyone's having conversations online. All you have to do is just listen in and be a part of the conversation, which is fantastic.
I think it's interesting too, the shift into criticism that he's done, and how his audience has said, we want more of this kind of content where you look at comics and draw on top of them and talk
give
about
your
them.
opinion. Yeah.
And
certainly there's a desire for drama there.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Of course. But I think you've derailed me.
You were saying that it's neat that there's an audience demand for that.
Yeah. Because we've seen some push for that kind of criticism as opposed to reviews, just in general. And I think that is interesting that there is so much demand for it with EVS. I don't know how much the desire for drama necessarily contributes to that, but
that's a good distinction. Yeah.
I have generally been very dismissive of the need for that in any sort of like public arena type thing. I think obviously creatives should be seeking the betterment of their craft in every possible way. And if they feel that they need that kind of criticism from someone who is better in the industry, better at the artwork or whatever, to speak criticism to them, then they should seek that out. But I have
privately,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, I've generally thought that, from my point of view as a reader, it does very little for me as a way to stir interest.
Well, and that's the thing, is there's this constant tension, and this is, I think, the interesting thing about all of this is, like, there's this tension between, like, what's useful, what is, good, what's useful to who, and, like, what's good entertainment, and what's good, what's like a good thing to do to try to promote and grow an audience that you can sell stuff to.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's something that we have struggled with a little bit on our side, because like, eventually it would be cool if this, whatever we do, grew to be something that we, an audience that we could use to sell our own creative works or whatever. But at the same time, like, we see that maybe the things that would do that most effectively maybe aren't what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we're experimenting with what, like, with trying different things, but it's kind of more about what we think is good and useful and what we want to do than about, like, what's gonna rile people up and build that audience that's gonna sell stuff. Right. I think what would be really cool, I think, is if Iron Age could somehow figure out how to build the sort of promotional powerhouse that, like, the Comicsgate Kings group has, because I just think they have something really special that nobody else that I've seen has.
That's not in the Iron Age you found? That's interesting.
Not personally for me. I don't want to get into specifics about that too much, because I don't want to make people feel bad. But like I said, I mean, I like Ethan a lot. I like just listening to him talk about his day with Shane. There isn't really anything Shane Davis, right? There isn't anything like that in our circles for me.
Really? Wow. See, I don't know hardly anything. I've been looking at Iron Age from afar and thinking about writing a novel or something, but I don't want to write it and try and, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what Iron Age is after these couple of years.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, all these kind of movements or whatever, or maybe it's not a movement, all these ages, they only figure out what they are after it's done, If it's living, it's always it's always changing and being dynamic, the moment you figure out what it is, you're like dissecting it in a lab and it's already dead. So it's kind of, I'm kind of grateful in a way, like that Iron Age has been this chimeric, I guess. That's kind of interesting. I don't know how anyone is making a business out of it, but maybe that's okay. Like, I'm just coming from the assumption that CG had, like, that everything has to be a business, and maybe it's kind of neat in a way that people from the start, from the top all the way down, have been saying this isn't a movement, it's just a description of a phenomenon of this period in time, and what you do with that, like, let's just observe that and acknowledge it and then do our own thing in light of that. That's really interesting. Maybe that's worth, I don't know, like, what you do after that, I guess, is you go be a YouTuber, I guess. That hasn't changed. You still got to be a YouTuber, but anyway, it's really interesting what Iron Age is, what it's doing.
Yeah, and it's entirely possible that looser association and the less business focus just means that there won't be those, like, that promotional machine that CG has just won't ever exist in it.
Yeah.
But
beyond your personal business, strategy. Yeah.
Yeah. But the sort of like community that they have, I think is pretty cool. And
wait, who's they in this?
Just like the
Comicsgate or Iron Age?
Comicsgate, like just the relationships and like
I was hoping you were talking about Iron Age.
No, like the way their streams work and stuff. I mean, like just something that we've done is like we've kind of had this standing invitation to certain people to come on our show because we like I really like how that's a thing in Comicsgate.
Sure.
Like there's these groups of people that we like, they know they have chemistry, they know they can make what they consider to be a good show, and there's like this sort of standing like let's have a fun conversation on a regular basis thing.
Yeah.
Like I would like to have that. We have a tiny audience, right? We're never going to have anything of the scale that they have, but it's cool, right? And I wish there was more of that.
I'm glad you're doing your part.
Right? Yeah. We're so glad to have you be a part of that. But yeah, it's tricky because it's like what is the point of that? You know, there's all these different reasons, and I think we haven't figured out exactly what, and we're still figuring out like what exactly we want to do with it personally.
Chat, what do you guys think the point of this is? See, we could have done this in a group call and not be live streamed, but the fact that it was live streamed, that like that's interesting, that's a different medium. Now we're doing it, and there's people who can type to add to the conversation, and that's like a whole different dynamic. And that, I don't know, there's something really fascinating with that. I'm glad like the live stream revolution, I'm glad that there was a comics movement that capitalized on that. I'm glad that there's creative, fiction and nonfiction people like exploring that too. But certainly this is storytelling, it's just we're doing it live. We're just ad-libbing it. And the chat can write stories. They're helping to write the story, which is so much cooler than a podcast or any other pre-recorded thing. And I'm glad we do it publicly, I'm glad we don't just, but like what to do with that, I don't know. I guess like you said, like the creative, we have to discover the idea in the doing of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the why for me right now, and this is just for me. You have this is technically Katie's channel, and she has her project of the positive reviews, and but like for me, I think it's just I want to pay it forward, right? I really like live streams because I don't have a lot of real life in-person friends who are into this kind of thing and who I feel like I can talk to about the stuff. So I really love, after a long day of work, of mental work on something that isn't really creative, to be able to sort of listen to other people talk about creative projects, and I have that sense of
valuable.
I'm not alone. I really enjoy that about Comicsgate, even though I'm not a comic creator and those people aren't my friends. It just makes me feel like, oh yeah, there's people who are working on things, and I can sort of be a part of their process and what they're doing and how they're feeling. It's very, very nice. And I want to pay that forward, right? I want to give, I want to try to do that for other people. And I hope that's what that is for the people who are listening. Whether it turns into a platform that we can use to shill our stuff, it's kind of, that's the secondary.
It's not even tertiary for me.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. See, what you guys are saying is like you're acknowledging your fish, and you still know what the taste of water is. I like that. You understand that the live stream is an artifact with value. Like you enjoy other live streams, and you're seeing the value in and of itself, not just its ability to market books. And you're paying that forward. That's really interesting. I don't think CG has categories for that. I think it takes people who probably read more books to be able to navigate the 3D rotating apple that is understanding a live stream in and of itself and its value, its social value.
Sure.
So kudos.
We got some comments in the chat. So Michael Caine, we should probably go back through some chat comments too. But Michael Caine said that's why he listens, because he likes
that's
to
cool.
socialize.
Yeah, you guys are my actual friends.
Yeah, and when I listen to live streams, I don't usually participate in the chat. I just like to listen to the stream.
I never see you in the chat. You don't want to write the story of the live stream. You don't want to be a co-author.
Yeah, I mean, most of the ones
you don't have to
are really big too. So
unless
I did super chats, they would get lost. But maybe I'll find some smaller streams sometime that I can participate more in. I think that's the kind of fun thing about our streams is they're small enough that people can participate and be seen and stuff too. It'd be I think it would still work if they're about 5 or 10 times bigger.
I already have trouble keeping track of the chat if I'm also talking, but I appreciate every single one of you so much.
Yeah, you guys have a great chat. Really fine folks.
Yeah, I think we're very lucky on our Twitters and in this chat to have a very good amount of high percentage of engagement for the viewership that we have. It's really cool.
Though you could really step it up on the trolling side. I'm really used to going on a stream and being just like absolutely ridiculed. Like that's the point of the chat, is to make fun of people on the stream.
I'm not good at it though. I'm really not good at it.
Iron Age is way too nice.
But I Patrick says I'm willing to be hired as a producer if Katie would just take the money.
Just take them.
I'm not really sure that I have anything else to say about this particular.
Yeah.
I was just interested in kind of how it came about, particularly to talk about reviews and kind of look at their situation and say, haha, drama, funny. And then be like, okay, how do we make sure that our friendships and relationships don't similarly disintegrate? And how can we make actually useful and productive reviews that are helpful to everybody involved in a consistent and authentic and genuine way.
If you think of if your goal is to be entertaining and people are asking for reviews, then you're going to make an entertaining review. And is that going to be the review that the author and their audience needs? Because you're gonna flavor and color that heavily with entertainment, and maybe you're gonna it's gonna be less genuine as a result. Yeah. Yeah, that's challenging.
And it's definitely easier to tear down than it is to build up, right? Like I feel like I've known that ever since kind of coming on Twitter and seeing what people were doing in the space to try to promote novels, not comics so much, but it's always easier to generate buzz and interest and everything through negative reviews than positive.
Well, and if you're sitting over a comic book with a Sharpie,
or
over a manuscript with a red pen, you're incentivized to do something, right?
Yeah.
You are being watched in that situation.
Yeah.
So
Do you think that there are ways that you could make a fun, entertaining YouTube stream out of a purely positive review of a book? Is that even a possible thing to do?
Oh, I've been trying to figure out how I want to do video reviews.
Because comics, I mean, comics, even if you're doing a positive review, there's a visual element to them, and I'm pretty convinced that there's a visual element is really important for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. I feel like BookTube has been more just looking at the person's face and hearing them talk about stuff. I like John Douglas's review videos, but the thing about it is that book reviews do not get views. So, and my medium has always been the blog, right? So I know 100% of the time that I write it down, it's going to say exactly what I meant. Whereas when I'm talking, sometimes I can't come up with the exact perfect word that I want.
I think a blog has better longevity too. I think it's got longer legs.
Yeah.
A live stream, even if you search for a review of a book on YouTube, and you find some random video from 2016 or something, I don't know, you may listen to it, but I'd rather read a blog review from the same year, frankly.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys.
I prefer reading because I can read a lot faster than other people can talk. So
there's that too. Yeah, you're not just like lost in the stream waiting for content that's valuable.
Yeah,
you can just peruse the
I can skim until I see words that I'm like, oh, this is something I want to pay attention to. Whereas with a stream, you can listen to it in 2x time, but you can't go right to the exact place where you know that they're going to be talking about something that interests you. So there's that too. Although I don't know, and I'm not sure how if people in the chat can back me up on this, but I think that the Iron Age book club stuff we were doing was pretty interesting to watch and fun.
Yeah.
And
those were generally positive.
Yeah, generally positive. We would talk about things that we thought were more or less effective in the storytelling sense of effective. But they were generally positive. I think, and we are intending to pick them back up. It's just been a couple of crazy months here.
And they were all books. It was like intended to be a book club, so it was books that people had read and recommended. At least one person in the group had read and recommended. So it was not just intended to be like, oh, here's this book, here's our opinion about it. It's like you go out and read it, and then you can participate in this conversation.
Yeah. Yep.
So that I think that's definitely a good thing.
Yeah.
There's definitely not like a right and wrong answer to like what medium you're using to write a review, it seems. So apparently the chat enjoys video reviews for Iron Age books, which is cool. Interesting. So there's certainly, particularly if it's like a conversation review, it makes sense. I think Michael Caine was mentioning that. Obviously that works better in video format.
Something that I was just thinking about doing, and I was going to talk to you about this, Katie, to see if you thought it was a good idea. But I was thinking that it would be kind of fun to do a live stream where I kind of read through and talked through a review of my book. So Michael Caine just shared he read Uriel's Revenge and shared a nice review of it on Twitter. And I thought, like it's always a little awkward to just like sit in front of a camera and talk about your own book. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to do a little bit of that on my own channel, and like I'm trying to be more proactive about like talking about my art and my project and stuff there. Try not to do it too much here. But it's a little awkward to just sit there and talk about your own book, but interacting with somebody else's positive review. Mm-hmm. So like you wouldn't want to do this with negative review. Like you wouldn't want to like take a negative review and talk about why it's wrong. That would be cringe. But a positive review, Michael Caine in his review mentioned a lot of specific details of the story and even had some questions. So you could almost like EFAP the review.
Oh, that's very fun.
Where you would talk through it and kind of, hopefully let the reviewer speak, but then kind of interject with your own little details and ideas and things.
I could do that for other people's reviews of books I've read. I could EFAP other people's reviews.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's true. And that kind of gets at like the idea of discussion, as opposed to kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Patrick points out that he's got a video review of Uriel's Revenge that I could EFAP. So and I think that would lend itself to the live stream medium. Like EFAPing is definitely a thing. Mm-hmm. That people like. I think it's fun when it gets really deep. There's like a while back there was it was like in some CG stream there was like somebody made a live stream and then like John Malin EFAP'd it, and I watched that, and then Ethan EFAP'd John Malin EFAPing it, and John Malin came on Ethan's stream, so they were like EFAPing themselves. And I just think that's like it's cool. It's cool and meta.
Very meta.
It's just like a whole new. That's like how technology can like you couldn't have that happen until now. Mm-hmm. You can't like have a real time review of your own thoughts expressed.
Yeah.
And then chat about it, and then pause, and then discuss it with your friends until like this moment, which is so interesting.
Yeah.
Makes you think differently.
So Ultimate Kahuna and Michael Caine strongly dislike the term EFAPing. I just want to point out, in case you guys don't know, it doesn't actually come from fapping. It's an acronym that means every frame of pause. So that's it's unfortunate that it sounds like fapping, but it's not like internet fapping. Right. It's every frame of pausing.
Yeah, but it was also suggested like it's a bunch of YouTubers that came up with it, right? So
it sounds a lot like circle
they knew
jerk.
what they were doing.
Yeah, I mean, I won't deny that there's that
degenerates.
That's not like does it really.
Did not escape them.
And your idea about Jeopardy reminded me. I've had this idea for a while. So when a certain subset of my generation were in elementary school, there was this thing called and I'm not going to remember. Anyway, you formed a team, and everybody in the school in your grade level read the same 10 books, and then you competed against each other answering questions, basically trivia questions from those 10 books. And I thought it would be really fun to do that if I could get people to commit to reading 10 books and then making teams.
Yeah, that's tricky though, because it requires effort on somebody's part.
People would have to commit, right, to reading a certain number of books. Maybe not 10. Maybe we could do a smaller number. Or like novellas or something, or something. And I thought it would be fun, but yeah, commitment, people making teams.
I like the this is like low IQ CG here, but like if the intent is to encourage people to read more books, maybe you could do some new releases, but also mixed in like classics that people who are readers have probably already read. So it kind of lowers the expectation, and it allows people who didn't read any of it and just want to tune in. They're like, oh, there's like a Dostoevsky section. I can play that game. Like I won't understand the other stuff. I didn't read David V. Stewart's book, but I can engage on Anna Karenina or something. So,
Anne says if I read 10 books, I want some cool prizes, at least a t-shirt.
Yeah. If you go all the way, you automatically win.
We could have Iron Age book it.
What is book it?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That's what got you the personal pan pizzas.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Book it, okay.
Yeah, but you have to live stream from that that Pizza Hut that you guys went to.
Yeah, from the Pizza Hut Classic.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I tuned in for that. That was fascinating.
It was an experience. It was a lot brighter than I remember. I remember them being dark.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it wasn't dark.
It's moody. That's weird.
The visit for me came in, and we're not a huge family, but we're on the larger side because we were with David's family, and the waitress zeroed in on me. Eye contact, heavy eye contact. Every time David spoke, she would look at him, and then she would turn to me, make eye contact. Like I need to nod. Yeah, yep, exactly what he just said, right? And then at the end, David was helping our kids wash up afterwards, and I went and I paid. She asked me a question. It was like a one-word response on my part, and she just launched into her life story. And this is the thing that happens to me. I don't know if I have an aura or what that just says, unburden yourself. Like,
fascinating.
I'll smile and nod. But that was my Pizza Hut Classic experience.
You need to be walking into the Pizza Hut Classic wearing a hat. Like I think I'm just going to assume David was wearing his hat. That kind of says, I'm doing my thing here. I'm here for the pizza.
But this kind of thing would happen to me. So when I was in college, I didn't have a car, and I rode the city bus. And I would get on the bus. I would go all the way to the back, and I would put in my earbuds, and I would close my eyes, and people would still talk to me. Just random strangers.
Yeah.
People I'd never met before.
That's funny. I always thought that was like a Southern thing, but I guess it could just be a personality thing anywhere.
It's just an attractive woman on public transportation thing. Is what it is.
Okay. Here's another example of this. This is a huge rabbit hole. I'm sorry, guys. Very big tangent. So before we had kids, after church, I'm standing in the fellowship area. David goes to the bathroom, so I'm standing by myself. Almost instantly, I'm approached by a young woman who strikes up a conversation with me. David comes back. I introduce him. Within a minute, she's gone.
It's great.
David, you're like,
don't leave me.
Anti-conversation matter. That's funny. Well, they say opposites attract, and I guess in some esoteric way, you guys are opposites. So
I guess so.
Yeah. It's okay. I don't want anybody to talk to me.
see, even the one girl in the chat, you're naming all these women who are enjoying conversing with you, and even Anna says you are physically calming to talk to. So there's something there.
I think that's probably good, right? I would rather be calming to talk to than somebody who spurs people to drama or backstabbing. Right?
Yeah.
In that respect, both of you guys are very calming to talk to. I couldn't imagine. I was curious about this being a quote unquote debate. I was like, am I going to see a new side to these guys? Because I think we're just going to have a really nice conversation.
Yeah.
But I was open.
Yeah.
I was open to the debate, but I was not. I was pleasantly unsurprised.
Yeah, I want a world where people can disagree and still sort of get along. Increasingly, I've seen that doesn't really seem to be a value that a lot of people have. Like I think I used to assume that was something that other people had, but honestly, I think that for a lot of people, their intention with debate is to sort of tear other people down and make other people feel bad and make themselves feel good. I don't really have that goal.
I'm
I really don't.
more interested in the ideas.
Yeah. And I mean, there's things that I feel strongly enough about that I don't really want to even discuss because I know that, we're not like, they aren't going to feel good to discuss.
Sure.
A lot of religious stuff for me kind of falls in that category where it's like, I don't even really want to, I don't think there's a whole lot to be gained from, talking about differences.
Like debating or.
Yeah. But I'm glad that we've kind of found a group of people that we can have these kind of conversations with amongst people who aren't in, 100% lockstep, cult, members of the same cult kind of.
Yeah, it's the thoughtfulness that is key, right? Like that's the difference. People who are willing to hear you and respond in a good faith way to try to get at that idea, even if they're coming at it from a different perspective or even an opposing perspective.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I know like we definitely do have disagreements about the AI issue, and that's fine. But I think we can still have a good conversation about it.
Yeah. Sorry, chat. We didn't give you enough of a throwdown CD style drama debate stream.
Patrick at one point was like, "We've got to get Katie mad. I've never seen her mad." It's like, you're probably not gonna get to see me mad because I probably wouldn't live stream if I was mad.
I think we've been mad. There's certain individuals that have gotten our ire.
Yeah, my hackles have been raised.
Yeah, I think though, like we don't want that to be the focus.
Right.
I don't honestly know if anyone wants that to be the focus. I don't even know if Ethan wants that to be the focus of he's taking advantage of something that's happening right now, and he said that he's raising money for season tickets, so when his dad comes they can go to a bunch of games. I think he's taking advantage of something, and I think he's being very aggressive about it in a way that I never would, but he's still doing something that he thinks is useful. I hope that what we're doing here is useful.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, I don't want to just like be angry and air dirty laundry. Like I want to talk about the things that I think are important and the underlying reason that I would be upset, right? In a way that is useful to other people, like what we've done in the past with our quote unquote drama streams.
You guys have done drama streams in the past? Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've missed out on those.
We had some big fights. Earlier this year last year, we had a big fight with Jeffro Johnson, and we had a big fight with Larry Correa.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So, I think this last year, 2023, one of my big takeaways from the year was like I knew people were sort of doing things for different reasons, but I didn't quite understand how deep those divides were.
Yeah. Just sort of assumed that people just kind of had different motivations, and that was fine.
Yeah, and that people were in general were kind of like okay with other people doing things for different reasons. And I think that was the big thing that both those fights were about, was like, okay, there's this group of people who kind of has the appearance of being an ally, whatever that means,
right,
who really don't want certain people to be operating in this space. And that's very offensive to Katie and I, because art, like a lot of what we're about, is people should be free to like self-publish.
Yeah.
And it's okay if not
everybody does
anything, right?
And
both of those.
I remember this era. I think I found you guys in that era of you were coming down off that arc, that particular arc.
Yeah. Read whatever you
want.
That
was intense.
Yeah. I mean, we certainly grew our audience a little bit over it. I wouldn't poke either of those bears again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty interesting. And again, like the thing that I think I'm enjoying about the CG drama is that it's like not drama that's in any way connected to me. Whereas both of those things were like fights we kind of picked, and they were in our realm, which is like indie fiction.
Yeah.
Right.
That can be tough.
Yeah, they're in the realms that we're actually active in, to a greater or lesser degree.
Yeah.
Yeah. This drama for me, it's like I'm on the fringes of it, but I'm working with people who they could lose their livelihood depending on which way it sways, so it's like super intense and lame, and it's like I don't care about any of the factual details, because it all just sounds super, like I went to the Tampa Con. I was at Tampa, and I just had a great time, and everybody's like performative online memory that they've constructed of what happened is just so silly. But it's not monetizable. I don't know. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but like it's like it's nice. Like what we're doing here is valuable, even if it's not monetizable. Like that's kind of my current philosophy right now. And going to a convention is not always profitable, but it can be very valuable. Particularly in the things that aren't monetizable, like in the hanging out with people and getting new insights into other creators and peers. Maybe doing collaborations as a result of that trust network that you get to build, that isn't just mediated through all this fake this simulated community space that we try to construct. Like it's nice to just actually sit and go have lunch with somebody, and then even if you don't talk about much, you know them better, and maybe you want to work with them, or maybe you trust their work more. Maybe you buy them and you feel like you can understand what their stories are doing more just because you had lunch with them. It's all those weird like non-verbal communication things that are just brilliant. It's beautiful. And but it's not monetizable like having lunch with someone. But the internet space is always about trying to monetize. So it's just endlessly frustrating that people you break through the seal, you build an online community, and then you go hang out in person, and then suddenly you're like, wait a minute, we don't have to do any of this drama. We can just hang out and have fun for a weekend and talk about comics, and there's no chat, there's no one listening. we're just being ourselves. And then you go back to the internet space and you're like, oh wait, never mind. We have to figure out how to monetize this. We got to make memes. We have to recontextualize this for an online space. Anyway, that's my rant. I'm sorry. I hope you would appreciate that with your human-centric focus about what you guys care about.
If you want to, I mean, I know we've been going for quite a while now. I would like to talk more about this if you're up for it.
I got a few more minutes. Yeah.
Cool. Did you just go as a attendee, or were you a vendor there?
Oh no, just as a I filled up like a rucksack with my comics, and I put my my profile picture, my Twitter profile picture on the sack. So if you know, you know, and just kind of walked around the con, and a few people recognize me.
Nice.
But mostly, yeah, I was just kind of talking to the more middle to upper class, as they say, creators who were bending. And it was mostly CG people who were bending, and it was totally cool.
Yeah.
I think that was the real eye-opening experience, is like, it's okay to just be a normal creator again and not feel like you're going to get arrested or something because you didn't vote for Joe Biden or something.
Yeah.
Like, which is kind of how it felt in just a few years ago. You know, like, you don't have like, nobody was talking about CG at the space. You were just talking about comics, but it was okay to like be over here talking about comics and then also go over there and talk about comics. And nobody was checking people's credentials, ideological credentials. It was amazing. So yeah,
that's really cool. None of these things happen anywhere near where we live.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's challenging.
I'm probably never gonna be able to visit one. And I mean, I'm not a comic creator either, but I would
even like the Chicago one isn't close to you.
I mean, Chicago's like a full day's drive away.
Wow.
From us.
It's like 5 hours.
We could potentially
6 hours.
go if we like could visit your relatives at the same time, but I don't know. I would want to have some people that I actually knew a little bit better there. You know, I couldn't say much to anybody else other than just, hey, I really appreciate what you do. You know, but it would be neat to just to see something like that. I mean,
that's what we did. We said, me and a couple of people who have reviewed stuff in the past, we've also hung out together because we're in the same state, but we're like, let's just meet up at the con, you know, and we're kind of like our friendship home base, and then we'll just break out from there. You know, then you go meet Kelsey Channon, then you go have cigars with them, but then we all go grab lunch again together, and we just check in on each other and say, hey, you know, where are you at? It's good to have like a buddy that you're going with that gets it. You know, it could be your wife, or it could be someone you know from the space that you know. But yeah.
What we actually last year, it's kind of an unfortunate thing. We were kind of putting together a little bit of a plan for going to BasedCon.
Oh yeah.
But unfortunately, what happened is in our fight with Larry Correa, we kind of had a little mini fight with Rob Cruzy. That and I think part of like what we sort of realized is that there's these people that we've been interacting with who they're professionals, right? And they're really not interested in like people who are just sort of trying to do interesting things. Like before the whole conversation with Larry, we were like, oh yeah, it'd be cool to like just kind of show up there, because they have like a little vendor table at BaseCon. And I had this vision of like just showing up there with like some kind of crazy stuff that like nobody else would be doing. And then I kind of realized after that whole fight, it's like these people are professionals they're trying to do this because it's their livelihood, and they're really not interested in giving any quarter to people who are not also trying to do that, because they sort of see them as people who are taking either taking a slice of their pie or kind of clouding up the space.
Kind of wasting.
Yeah, like wasting Amazon,
inertia or something,
like Amazon rankings or whatever. So that was kind of unfortunate. I wish there was something like near us where we could just go like eventually and just try to sell stuff just for fun, and we probably wouldn't, but it would be just fun to try,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I had BaseCon kind of in mind as sort of a kick in the pants to make physical copies of my books, because I never have. But then when that fell apart, it's like I don't have any motivation to do it, so I never have. And I would like the reason to do that. Maybe if and when I write something again, I'll probably do it. But it'd be fun just to try. But that attitude of, oh, it'd be fun just to try, I feel like just wouldn't fly with a lot of people.
I highly recommend it. Yeah, like I've tabled before, just to table, and I didn't make any money.
Yeah,
I think the only I got like a commission done for like a furry who wanted his it wasn't anything R-rated.
Yeah,
but I like drew a furry's avatar. Didn't sell any comics. No one was interested at all.
mm-hmm.
But I got the whole experience of like your booth is a story,
Mm-hmm.
like what story do you want to tell? Like
Mm-hmm.
it, like at the eye level experience on the table, how do you want to invite someone in and have them have a welcoming time that doesn't feel frankly like you're gonna jump them and try and steal their money.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's really fun.
I've
figuring that all out.
Craft fairs,
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
in any way related to our stuff.
No, it's very crafty. Cons are very. It's all about the craft.
Yeah. So I've manned a booth with a friend, and
nice.
It's her stuff, so she does all of that, setting things up in the way that she wants, and her stuff is just gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
And that experience of interacting with other people over art, seeing people stop, realize what they're looking at, laugh because it's funny or cute, just the whole approach, the questions that they ask, the things that they're interested in, it is really a wonderful experience, quite apart from how much money you make.
Yeah.
There's value in that. Yeah. Whether it's monetized, whether it's profitable or not. Mm-hmm.
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 And you really get a sense too of that face-to-face interaction of how your product impacts someone in ways that you could never tell online, right? That what they latch onto about the product that you did intentionally, but it wasn't one of a series of things that you did intentionally, but this is the thing that people really latch on. Like, it's really eye-opening, really.
Yeah. After a couple years of trying to shill my ebooks online on Twitter, it's neat. I mean, it's not my books, but making physical copies of our Periapsis Christmas collection, and then just showing them to friends and seeing their reaction. It's pretty interesting. It's it's a very different thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it would be fun to try to do sometime. There isn't anything like that anywhere near us that would make sense for us to do, I don't think.
There's got to be something in your state. I mean, most even mid-sized cities have some kind of couple annual conventions.
Yeah, there's probably a couple that we could go to and try to sell stuff at, but the also what's missing is like friends, right? You know,
Yeah.
there's like nobody in our online circles are really in our area would be at such an event. So
yeah, it would be the kind of thing where we would have to reach out to people and be like, hey, would you like to get together and all make it to this thing?
yeah, find a central one or something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that might be a project in the future. If
It's a good idea, and
our
you'll make friends with the people boothing to your left and your right. You know.
True.
Yep.
Very true.
Yep. So if we can kind of keep growing what we're doing here and kind of making more connections, maybe something like that would work in the future.
And I'd like to do things apart from books, sort of for the website, some sort of merch type line of stuff.
It's a good idea.
Yep. Yeah, we have a lot of ideas.
A lot of ideas.
We'll see what actually.
What I don't have a lot of is time.
Yeah.
Kind of like what we were saying earlier. Like, I got a lot of ideas. They're all in my head.
Yep. Yeah.
Patrick says, I hear Michigan is very central.
Yeah. Someday.
Have you guys? What state? Have you made it public? What state you're in?
Oh yeah.
We're in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
But not on the side of Wisconsin that's near anything else.
Yeah,
So
we're very close to the Twin Cities, like right on the border of Minnesota.
yeah.
So.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay, you're in a cultural hotspot then, I would think, for literature and
yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Kind of the hoity-toity end, I think.
Yeah.
Of literature. Maybe less the indie space. I don't know.
Yeah. For like for comics and like sci-fi and stuff, for instance, there's a ton of stuff in St. Paul, but it's all very like liberal, you know. There's like a distinct sort of liberal bent.
It's like the it's like the artsy kind of indie, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The like the hipster indie type stuff.
All the little bookstores are very obviously liberal, you know, pet people's liberal pet projects, even in our town, which I think is kind of a conservative town. The bookstores are very, you know, liberal.
Voted.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate. And we don't venture into Minnesota too much anymore either. You know, it's kind of an unfortunate deal, but
yeah.
Dang, I wish I even lived. I probably live 1,500 miles away from you guys. Otherwise, I try to get you out to one of these conventions because I know
sometime
it's worth it.
Sometime when the kids are older, / if we have more kids when they're older too, so like maybe 10 years from now, we'll definitely, I definitely want to drive ways to visit, and I would come to Florida. I've been to Florida before, and I would really like to visit again. And Katie's got some relatives around there, so it's not like out of the question,
right,
to do something like visit one of these other cons. So it'll happen sometime. In
10 years.
yeah. It might be a little ways.
I hear you. No.
It's kind of funny being an adult and thinking in terms of 10 years instead of next summer.
Do you have kids, Matt? Can I ask?
Not yet. I hope to.
Okay. Yeah. It's I really used to like road trips, and I love my children, but road trips are just not fun anymore. It's very sad.
Between screaming, crumbs in the car
sick,
and
going to the bathroom.
It's just it's
and,
not as fun.
And our kids are very good. They're honestly really good at road trips, but it's just not You know, you think everything's, oh, it's like, oh yeah, this one's gone fine, and then they just throw up. And then you feel bad because you're like, I did this to you. You know, you're just a little kid. You don't know to look out the window. You can't. You don't understand how to do this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
and then all they want is to be held afterwards.
Yeah.
But you're like, I can't. I'm sorry. I've got to clean you up. I got to clean the car up, and I
Yeah.
can't.
So-
I can't hug you.
we can't put you in the front seat.
Oh,
You know, if you could just hold your kid on your lap in the
Mhm.
car, it would be
It would be so much better.
yeah.
But you can't.
You can't.
Because it would only be better until something wasn't good. Oh.
Oh, poor kids. They
Yeah.
haven't figured out the medium of car driving yet. Impresses their experience of travel.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that about does it for me. It's 1
Yeah.
a.m. here. So.
We've talked about throwing up. It's time to be done for the
Yeah.
night.
Well, thanks so much for coming. This was a really good
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, I think this was fun.
Mhm.
I appreciate you coming on and debating us.
Yep.
I confess, there was a couple other times I might have clicked the link, and I was like, I don't know if David's mad at me, so I don't
No.
want to show up and then it cools the room and suddenly we have to talk about AI.
No.
So
And we never have to talk about AI. That's never something that we have to talk about.
We can talk about anything.
Yeah, I think
now I know we can talk about that and we can still have a good conversation. It's not a bad. I didn't have a bad time, even in disagreeing. So
Well, we appreciate you coming and hanging out with us.
Yeah.
And thank you to
absolutely.
everybody in the chat
Yep.
for coming and
Yeah, thank you,
participating.
chat.
We appreciate you guys contributing to the
Yeah, Fiona Wolf, Anna Pinkava, Patrick Studebaker,
Mm-hmm.
Ultimate Kahuna. Great comments from you, Michael Kane. Thank you.
Wise.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
A lot of people here tonight. William Jeffrey Rankin. Hail the Lord.
And you lurkers too. We see you.
Yeah. Great chat tonight.
We have invested in an overhead camera mount.
Mm-hmm.
So our next Lego stream is going to be great.
Yeah, and we're gonna figure out like camera autofocus and auto exposure and all that stuff, so that in the future when we do Lego building, when we do like showing books and action figures and stuff, it's gonna be a lot better. Hopefully,
you'll be able to see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And hopefully we won't be super crowded or anything.
Yeah.
It should be.
You're onto something with those Lego streams. I think you're really building something. You're really constructing something with that. It's a niche market.
We have fun. We have fun.
Yeah, I think it's just an excuse to stream, and I hope that like I want to have this ongoing fun conversation with people, because I think there's value just in that.
Mm-hmm.
So if the catalyst is Legos,
great.
So be it. Yeah. I hope, eventually I hope we can kind of grow into other things too, but I mean it's I think it is something.
Mm-hmm. And we have had people join up with the stream because they see the word Lego and they've never heard of our stuff before.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
Great.
You definitely get some organic growth from YouTube, which is kind of crazy. I would not have guessed that a little live stream with like no viewers would get organic recommendations, but it does seem to. So that's pretty cool.
Not no viewers. We know you guys are there.
Yeah. I mean, just in the
but in the grand scheme of YouTube viewers, we're not topping the charts,
right,
with our Lego streams in any way,
right?
But we're having fun,
and
people pick up on that when they come and peek in. So
yep,
that's fun.
Yep.
Right now I've got my Hogwarts Legacy
No.
Yeah.
Just Hogwarts stuff.
Yeah.
Impressive.
What I need to do is arrange it
Yep.
properly. But we did a recording with Fantasy Files. We're doing a reread of Harry Potter, so that is probably coming up in the next couple weeks too.
And
that was a lot of fun.
We've got 2 Lego sets in the pipeline.
Yes.
So we have the Galaxy Explorer icon set, and just this weekend at Target they had the El Dorado Fortress, the big new pirate like icon set,
Knight Castle set thing.
It's like it's like an island fortress. With a little ship. It's like the Imperial base, basically. So that will be coming up
as well
sometime soon, and that's I think 2,500 pieces or so. So that's
a big one.
That'll be good for a bunch of weeks.
The box kind of bows out a little.
Yeah, it's like bulge.
So many Legos in that box. Yeah. And then I am still reading very, very slowly, but I'm trying. What About Evil? And I will be talking about that with Patrick sometime when I've completed it. So.
Yeah. And then over on my channel, I'm gonna try to be doing regular like weekly project update streams, and I've got some neat ideas of some sort of segments to do and things to talk about. It's not just gonna be a live coding stream. I'm gonna still do that because I think it's fun, but I know that that's very limited appeal. But I think we've got some ideas for. I want to figure out how to make an interesting stream about my artistic project, and if it fails, it fails. The worst case is it'll just be a little video journal of my work on the project. But I want to give that a try because I don't think enough people are trying to do that.
Yeah,
I think everybody's in YouTuber. I've got to be critical mode. I don't think enough people are just saying like, here's my creative work.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. Don't have high hopes for it, but it's something to try.
Yeah.
Yeah, like vlogging your video game, I think is a really fun idea. I mean, that's certainly something I'm pretty interested in what you're doing on that front.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
It's pretty distinctive. You know?
I don't think there's quite enough of that. Just here I'm doing something interesting. I'm going to talk about it. Not I'm going to talk about the news is fun, drama's fun, but
yeah.
All right. Well, we won't keep you any longer. Thanks so much for coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much. Yep.
All right. Bye.
See ya.